Hello everyone, first of all. I've seen you saying Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to everyone. This is our first stream of this kind, probably. Yeah, it is our first stream. We are joined today by me, your host, your new community manager, Anastasia. You probably already know me by our Thursday stream on Twitch. And I'm joined today by our creative director, Alexander Mishulin.
Nice to meet you, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and good everything.
You probably already know him by our videos and all that stuff, but anyway. First of all, I'd like to ask you, what is a creative director? What does he do? What's your job in this company? And
I'm the one responsible for every kind of design decision. How game is playable, how you interact with everything, the game rules, game balance, economics, how we interact with something. In terms of story and companions, I also participate in designing it and reviewing it. A lot of my time is spent playing the game, making a lot of comments and saying how we do something or how we should change something. Another part of the job is high-level design decision if we want to do some kind of system or change some kind of system into something else. It sounds very generic because I'm not giving examples. For example, if we are thinking about Pathfinder Kingmaker, the idea of making the kingdom is such an example of such high-level decision. Also, I'm maintaining the game vision, how we want to see it in the end, what we want to tell our players, what is the meaning of the story, and how it should unfold, and how all of the pieces collect together into the one nice theme.
Yeah. Some of our Russian viewers already know that you have quite a long experience in the gaming industry, but some of our foreign viewers probably don't. Could you tell us a little bit, how did you get into the video game industry? What was your previous experience in gaming and all that stuff?
When we started to describing Pathfinder Kingmaker, I usually tell quite a long story about this subject. It started very long ago, almost in Soviet Union, probably in Soviet Union. There was almost no personal computers, and such happened that at my father's job, they get their hands on the first person computers. It was Apple Mac II. And so it happens I managed sometimes to sneak in and try to get acquainted with all this new computer technology, which means usually play games, of course. And I was doing so, and they get new computers and more games. And eventually I stumbled upon Eye of the Beholder 2. And it fascinated me. It was dungeon crawler set in the Forgotten Realms universe. I didn't knew any kind of this stuff at the time I was playing it. I didn't understand why some negative numbers is better than positive numbers. It was just strange game with fantasy and fighting, and it was overwhelming. I'm sorry. Yeah. And after that, when talking to friends and discussing it, I found out that actually there are some rules in there, and there are people in Moscow who have these rules printed and they're playing it physically on the table. And it was very close-knit community, but somehow we find an entrance into there, and it became some kind of Stranger Things story, but instead of the basement, we met in the dormitory of Moscow State University. It was a room filled with fantasy books, which was insane at that time, because almost no fantasy books existed. And we played it, and it was my first gaming experience with people. And after that, computers become more normal, and a lot of games arrived, and we started playing everything. And all fantasy RPGs fascinated me. It was Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, Might and Magic series, old ones, new ones at that time, everything. And I wanted to be part of it. I started writing reviews for one of the gaming magazines, and it was doing so for a couple of years. And after that, I tried through my friends they told me that one of the Russian companies that make computer games actually looking for a person who will be designing. I didn't know what designing meant, but I tried to apply. Said I knew a lot of computer games and a lot about them, and somehow they took me in and educated me on what game design actually is, and I started working on Evil Islands. I arrived in the middle of the project, and I was level designer on that project. And after that, it was project after project after project, and eventually it came up to the Pathfinder Kingmaker. I was working on SR Lords, Silent Storm, Heroes of Might and Magic 5, Elite Online, Skyforge, and Pathfinder Kingmaker.
Yeah, we are seeing all of your comments on Twitch. I see that you are saying that we have a nice scenery behind us. Thanks. We spent the whole day yesterday trying to arrange it all, and today a little bit. So yeah, thanks for that. You mentioned that you worked on a lot online. So what's like the difference between online games, working for online games, and single player games? Because I can see it as a community manager, because you have a constant community, you have to make events for them and stuff. But what's it like being behind the scenes, and is there any difference between making online games and offline ones?
At the initial stages of the development, it rather close, but usually online games are far bigger, with bigger teams, and responsibility is higher, and it is more difficult because you try to know everybody and talk to everybody, but when your team is 100, 200 people, it's very, very difficult. So you are working with your leads and trying to maintain your vision through that. And also there are less story, more mechanics orientation in the online games. But as part of game design, of your development as a game designer, it's a very different task and very different experience. It's a lot of scale. You are thinking a lot about numbers alongside with the experience, with how you want to progress, what your players will be doing in 3 years, for example. Because this game never ends. It's game as a service, as people usually tell right now. And when your work actually starts when you finish working on the game. So you're building it for 2 years, 3 years, and now you're happy you're releasing it to people, and your work actually starts. Actually, the team grown almost twice after the Elite Online was released. And after the Skyforge, after 10 years of developing online games, you start feeling tired because it's very
It's a never-ending process.
yeah,
Right?
it's a different kind of experience, and you want to get into the industry to tell stories, to make those very contained experiences, and you want to make something new, other experience, to express something new, and it's very difficult to do that in online games.
Yeah, okay. Let's jump into Kingmaker, the game that we're actually here for. Well, part of why we're here for. What was it like working for it? What was it like adapting a tabletop game into a computer one? What was like the easiest? What came to be the hardest thing about it?
Actually, it was a dream come true because I always wanted to make game like this because I grow on the games like this, and a lot of people in the studio also were very eager to make the best role-playing game we could possibly be making. And when you're doing this fire inside everyone, it's very comforting. You know that everyone doing its best, and you're building the best game ever. So it's because of that, because of the people working on this game, it's easy. In terms of design process and decisions, everybody played this game on the table. We had several campaigns running simultaneously, so everybody knew what we are doing and what we are trying to achieve. Of course, there are some adaptations, and we choose what parts we are changing, what parts are we keeping, how we are adapting it. One of the biggest things that we aiming for is a lot of choices for our players and a lot of consequences for their choices. And in tabletop, usually game master is responsible for that. So we took some of the decisions of our players at the table, some of the new decisions we just imagined and start putting it into the game, expanding the original story by these choices. And if we are speaking about the feats, abilities, and mechanical development, Pathfinder is enormous. It's 200-300 of books. We started with core rulebook, and after that we find out that a lot of interesting stuff that we like to play with, is actually not in core rulebook and beyond that. We cherry-picked several of classes and implemented some feats, some spells that suit them, to give more Pathfindery feel to the system and mechanics. And we will be continuing doing so even further by implementing additional classes.
Yeah. I saw some Owlcat Online fans in the chat. Shout out to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I saw the question here. What was your favorite part about working on Kingmaker? Did you have any favorite?
Actually, I spent a lot of time in designing the kingdom management. I know that some people want the RPG free of the strategic choices and strategic layer, while a lot of other players felt that it was a nice addition to the story and it fit nicely with the events that we were telling about. But the best part of my job is actually seeing how your initial vision, how the game you just imagined came to life, and everybody started playing it and giving you feedback, sometimes positive, sometimes negative, and you are building upon that, making it better and better and better, and this is the most pleasant experience for me as a game designer.
Yeah. Do you have any like funny or unusual story that happened to you while developing the game, or maybe in your past experience working for video games?
Oh. Actually, while developing almost every game, there is a special page on Wiki or Confluence that is devoted for funny stories that happened, and I'm desperately trying to remember something from the Pathfinder Kingmaker. Actually, I don't know whether it's considered really funny, but we had a lot of troubles with one of our NPCs. There is a Might Queen that tend to disappear almost every second build. So we are testing the location, making sure that everything is okay, and Might Queen is just gone. And we fix it, and in several builds she's gone again, and it's almost became a local meme that she disappeared once again. She doesn't want player to interact with her. She's so beautiful that it doesn't allow player to see her, and a lot of jokes like that. Still, usually the humor is built around this stuff working not as expected, and right now I can remember stories from different projects, but somehow not from Kingmaker.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk a little bit more about our new game that we have announced, Wrath of the Ranges. What do you like about this adventure path? Why did you decide to choose Wrath especially?
It's there are a lot of games that tells the story about heroes fighting demons, but usually the story is considered rather simplistic and bound to the games that we came here to destroy monsters and became vanquisher of evil. And almost nobody tells it as a serious story, a story of conflict that spans tens of hundreds of years, that changes people, and they're trying to withstand against the very powerful evil that corrupts everything. And we want to make the serious classical RPG with a lot of choices, consequences, all of the attributes of classical RPG, but exploring these themes and this kind of story. It also, it's on one side it's very heroic and epic because they're defeating such kind of evil. On other hands, it's kind of grim and dark because of the atrocities they commit, sometimes even before your eyes, and you try to understand how it could happen and what should I do to prevent it altogether. So it's completely different view on the very classical fantasy story, and that makes it very interesting for me.
Yeah. I have forgotten to mention that today, well, I have mentioned it before, but today I haven't mentioned it yet. We will be giving away some keys for Steam games. We'll be giving away keys for uh, Kingdom Come Deliverance, thank you. For Kingdom Come Deliverance, for the Royal Edition of it, for Outward, and for obviously Pathfinder Kingmaker. If you still haven't gotten any of these keys, be sure to check the chat and be the first one to grab the key. And also, shout out to YouTube chat. I see someone praising our DLC for Kingmaker. Thank you. We did our best. Okay, and our last question for today. Will it be, and if so, how much easier will it be for new players to join Pathfinder, the new game?
The simplest answer will be it will be far more easier than in Pathfinder Kingmaker, because we are working on it and put in a lot of effort, but I guess a lot of people and a lot of developers saying just the same thing as I am. So I will try to describe the steps we are trying to, and what we are trying to resolve. Pathfinder has a very deep mechanics, very complex, and if you're trying to understand it from the get-go, it's difficult because of the amount of information you are trying to absorb. So we're dividing it into the smaller chunks, and while initial tutorial will be giving you the basic information, a lot of other information will be provided both in tutorials and in context. So if you are, for example, encountering the situation you don't understand, and if we anticipated it correctly, and I hope we will, because we get a lot of information from the Pathfinder Kingmaker, you will be prompted with additional hints and links to additional information if you want to get into the system and understand how it works and why it works. So, and we are also making additional tweaks for our UI that will show you additional information and that will be highlighting the possible problems in your character, for example, and also providing you with additional hints how you could probably solve it, or maybe it's not a problem for you, you're doing just what you want. We will not be forcing you like, this is a problem, fix it. It's like we're giving you additional chance to look at that and decide for yourself, is it correct, or I just overlooked something. This kind of decisions we also will be scaling is a bad word, and we will be building the whole experience in more gradual way. So, and it comes naturally with Wrath of the Righteous, because you are starting and developing through the whole game and facing off with very powerful entities at the end. So this progress will be more natural, and you will be discovering new mechanics and new things in the game in very slow pace to allow you to understand it better.
Yeah. That's all we have to talk about with you. Don't turn off the stream. We're not over yet, obviously. Our next guests will be game designers, so if you have any question for them, let us know in the chat. And we have a Steam sale ongoing, so check that out, and we'll be right back with you. And we are back on the stream. Right now I have two game designers, Alexander and Leonid. Is that right in English?
Probably.
I've never said that name in English before. You wanna say hi?
Hello.
Hello.
First of all, who is a game designer? What do game designers do?
Currently, we're answering questions on the stream,
Yeah.
but overall, we do make mechanics. We make classes, monsters, spells, abilities, and so on and so on and so on.
Okay.
So, combat, the thing that is often called build porn, is our jurisdiction.
Okay. How did you start? How did you get into video game industry? How did you start? Where did you like? What's your previous working experience? How did you get here?
By accident. And it's not really a joke. I am a programmer by my education is my major is programming, but I tried this job at one company. I didn't really like it and was looking for another job, and by accident I saw a vacancy in game development, and well, that's how I got here.
Well, I worked in how do you call it? Social service and statistics, and I'm also a programmer by education. But just at some point, I thought, why am I working at jobs that I don't want to work at? And I started searching for a vacancy in game development, and well, since then I work as a game designer. I wanted to be a game designer since childhood, although at the time I didn't know that it was a game designer that does the things that I wanted to do, and that's how I became a programmer by education.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about Kingmaker. What was it like working for it? And if you had the chance, is there anything you would like to change in it? If you had, like, if you go back in time, is there anything you would change in the way it turned out?
I would have fixed more bugs.
Yeah.
Okay, but how was it like? Was it your? It wasn't your first game, right? It wasn't the first game you worked for.
No, it wasn't.
And was there anything special about it, or was it like just another job, another day, another job?
No, it was the first actual RPG. Like when I imagined myself making games, I imagined myself making games like this. But before that, I was making MMORPGs, also RPGs, but not the same.
Yeah.
As for me, the first time in my life I really thought about making games in general, when I didn't really understand how do you make games. I was playing Neverwinter 1, and I thought, wow, that's a really good game. I hope there will be time in my life when I'll be doing something like that, and I'm doing something like that.
Yeah, that's cool. Was there anything you did want to add into the game, but that never got into the actual game?
At some point, I started to making an assassin prestige class, but it didn't make it into the final game.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about your tabletop games experience. Have you actually? Do you like playing tabletop? Have you played Kingmaker and Wrath before? And do you like it, or do you prefer more PC game, console games, or and stuff like that?
We play constantly.
A little bit like every Saturday,
Yeah.
nearly every Saturday. Not only Pathfinder, we play Warhammer, just generic medieval fantasy, World of Darkness. What else? Cyberpunk in different versions, and some other stuff. We just like to try some new systems, settings, and stuff, because it's fun, because it's educational, mostly because it's fun.
Yeah.
I see a question in the chat. Are you both? Wait, DM is like the game master, no? Or it's just a normal player?
DMing is about mastering the
Yeah.
game. Yeah.
Are you both masters?
Yeah, but well, as we play on Saturdays, we have more than one master. We have the opportunity to actually play sometimes, as it's the biggest problem of all the game masters. You don't have the opportunity usually to actually play the games.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have like 3 game masters, and we do it on schedule. And like, I know that I know Pathfinder for a long time. I played it when it was almost at the same time it came out, and I played Dungeons and Dragons before that, and before that I played AD&D and so on. But that was a long time ago.
My first system was D&D, the 3rd edition, not the 3.5, the 3rd one. And since then I tried a lot of stuff, and I played a bunch of different games in different systems on forums and stuff.
Okay.
I played a lot of systems, but my problem was that when I was starting playing, manuals for the games were not exactly common in Russia. So we played, for example, by a Baldur's Gate game manual that had rules for Dungeons and Dragons, for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons described in it, in a very short and strange version. But we still used it for tabletop playing.
Yeah, I see another question in the chat. What are your guys' favorite classes?
I will say wizard. A wizard, yes. Wizard all the way.
Actually, my favorite class, I think, in Pathfinder is Vigilante. I love basically everything about it, but it's actually hard to play as it's strongly social in its mechanics, and you can't just play it in any game. So I'm a little bit sad.
Also, it's kinda unadaptable to PC.
Yeah. But
gaming.
not really kinda, it's like totally. You have to cut half of the class to and only leave some kind of strange, roguish character without all the flavor and main class features.
Yeah. I think this is a funny question, but how many lines of code have you written? Do you keep track of them?
Slightly less than programmers. No, significantly less than programmers, but
Quite a bit.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Wrath. Wrath of the Righteous, our new game. What do you like about this adventure path?
Epicness. And should I say some kind of simplicity in the basic ideas, like it has a really easy to understand premise where you get what is happening, and you can adapt and change this premise to your character with your liking. Although although I'm not playing it currently, I'm game mastering.
Yeah, me too. It's actually really cool in, like Sasha said, in a simple way. You come to kick asses and kill demons, and that's basically that's so easy to understand for everybody, and it's easy to make a party, because some of the adventure passes usually have this strange question: why the hell is the party there? Like, why they are together and stuff. And in Wrath, you have a common enemy, giant, a giant, horrifying enemy who can destroy your whole world. So it's not strange to see different people, different motivations, not really so different motivations, but nonetheless. And it's fun, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you can see the paladin there who is like they want to destroy our world, and some lawful evil guy who's they want to destroy my world. And some chaotic guy who's just they want to destroy my world. I keep all my stuff there.
Oh, hey, I want to destroy my world.
Yeah.
Don't butt in.
Yeah. I don't need your help, right? Okay, and we have announced already some mythic heroes: an angel, a lich, and a trickster. What makes them cool? What is so special about them? Maybe you can give us an example of how they work.
Well, an angel, for first, all of them can summon allies. For example, angel summons other angels, while trickster summons Fae, and leech summons undead. They have different abilities that they gain as they gain mythic levels, and they also have something similar to maybe people who played tabletop with this home rule called Gestalt. No, is that they allow you to advance along their somewhat changed class. For example, a lich is a wizard, so if you are playing as, for example, a fighter, you can still become a lich, and if you do, you will be able to cast spells like a wizard would, but you will have different spell list. So, for example, you will have an ability to make your sword a vampiric sword, or heal yourself with necromantic energy by draining life from enemies. But if you are already a wizard or someone like that, or for example a cleric, a full caster, you will instead advance your own spellbook. You will instead advance faster and or on your spellcaster's path, and you will gain spells earlier. Basically, your leech level and your wizard level will combine to you, and you will eventually you will gain really epic 10th level spells.
Anything you wanna add?
I want to add a little bit about the Trickster, as it's currently probably my favorite mythic path, which is designed. Trickster is not really about tricking others or your enemies, your allies. It's about tricking the world, and it's so cool in what it does. But I don't think I will tell you what it does.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think that's all like the questions I had for you. If there is anything else you want to tell us or talk about, or I don't know, share with us.
I don't know, maybe we should share one another ability of the Trickster, or not. The first one was that was shared was his ability. Trickster upgrades his skills, so when he learns knowledge vault better with his mythic level ups, he understands that world works with dices, and he, as a trickster, is best at dice. So whenever his party rolls 1, he just replaces it with 20. What should be another?
I think the athletics one.
Yeah, and with athletics, Trickster knows that you can remove conditions like entangled with athletics. So at his upgraded athletics, he can remove other conditions too. For example, he can roll his athletics and stop being nauseated, or, for example, stop being poisoned.
That's cool. I see someone saying they missed a key. We're giving keys. I don't know. I have already said that, but if someone missed that, we're giving away keys for Kingdom Come Deliverance, Outward, and Pathfinder Kingmaker. So stay tuned to the chat and don't miss other keys. And I think that's it with you. Not with the stream. We have other guests. Thank you very much for coming today. And
It was a pleasure.
Our next guest will be community manager, so again, if you have any questions for them, make sure to ask in the chat, and we'll be right back with you.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, we are back again with our community managers. You all probably already know them, but here's Lisa and Alexei.
It was a bad idea.
Most likely you may know us as Mortheim on Steam or Discord and as Wooden Dragon in both places.
And,
you may know me as Fichna on Reddit.
And that's now two of us, yeah? Community managers and the community.
Yeah.
Free.
Two. We're the one.
Yeah,
So
we are. We
there are
like.
three of us.
Yeah,
two
we're like
camps
Transformers. We transform into one big community manager. Yeah. But anyway, it's a question I ask to everyone. What's a community manager? What do you do for some who may not know you or might not know what exactly does a community manager do?
We're holding the strike, I may say.
What?
No?
Well, yeah,
We
but-
manage community.
Yeah,
That's what
but
can I
a
say.
little bit more. Like, what are your
Uh,
responsibilities? What do you do? What's your day like? What?
We gather feedback, we work a bit as a support, we create posts for social media, we invent some activities for you, we create images for for social media, we send you feedback and sometimes discuss it with developers.
And
We-
make rules.
the economics and our great book Economicon for creating especially great posts like the Yoda meme or Ok Elder for our
Okay, boomer. Yeah.
So basically, we're between the studio and the community. We're talking in the name of the studio to the community, and we are talking to the studio members in the name
Yeah.
of the
Of
community.
the community. I saw a question in the chat. What's the best part of your job?
creating memes, of course.
For me, the best part is that the job is always different. You make a whole bunch of different things. You're talking on different platforms. This day you're making an event. This day you're making a picture. This day you're calculating the statistics or whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
Many different things.
Right in
And
some ways.
I'm a multi-class. In life I like making different things,
Yeah.
doing different things.
I think most of us here are multiclassing.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit more about you. What was your working experience like? How did you get into the video game industry?
I started as a developer, as a programmer, a software developer at Nikita Online nearly 6 years ago. And then I thought that I really don't like to write a code. I don't want to code. I want to work with the community, provide feedback, work with developers on as a middleman of some sort. As a paladin of not bureaucracy but of community. Yeah, really, community manager is like a paladin. You filter through you a lot of different things and protect developers from negative feedback.
Maybe for me, as
Sometimes.
just like for Lenya, for me it was like pure chance, and I still don't quite understand how it happened, because it's connected somehow with my previous working experience, but I still don't quite understand how I ended up here.
Okay. Let's switch to Kingmaker, Pathfinder Kingmaker. What was it like working for it, and at what stage of development did you join the team?
I joined after the release, and it was fun, it was engaging, and it was a bit crazy. No, it was crazy. We had to do a lot of things, create some plans from the scratch, from nothing. Invent the whole system from nothing. We didn't have anything for some time.
Yeah, we had to jump right into
Yeah.
in the middle of some mess.
In October, it was in October
Yeah.
when we started, and we came really to a lot of troubles, and we helped to transfer feedback from players, report
And
bugs.
was
Yeah.
a lot of feedback.
And that was right, boss. Yeah. It was a crazy time because there was no structure. We were trying to make the best of what we had, and I think we managed to do this.
Yeah.
There were a
And
lot of really good posts from our community at that time, detailed posts about some problems and what can be improved. It was one of the best periods, I think, because the community was insanely active. Rough, but interesting, and
Yeah.
So, and I started a bit earlier. I've been making different things, helping the studio mainly as technical editor and a bit of localization, English localization editor, and some different things.
Yeah. Okay. I saw a hashtag Team Discord. Yeah, join our Discord. We do our best on keeping them up.
can we send a link to the chat for our Discord server? Maybe a bit later.
Yeah, we'll send you a link
Yeah.
in a
A
while.
bit later.
A bit later. What was the best and most difficult about working with the Pathfinder community?
I don't think there were any difficulties really, but some people were
He
a bit
said,
toxic.
holding the hammer.
Yeah, you know why it was easy? Because I have a ban hammer. I just ban people who are too toxic, and that's it.
I would say it's sometimes difficult because you have to find the right words always. It's a big part of our job to find the right words to talk. We have to cope with tons of problems, and we are really trying to make everyone happy and nice in the community, to make it a nice place, cozy maybe. And for me, it's sometimes difficult because different people want different things. There are always lots of different opinions, not always in kind words.
Yeah.
But yeah, Banhammer makes magic, you know.
Yeah, someone said it's a really nice banhammer.
In reality, this is a Doom Hammer.
Oh.
No product placement.
Yeah, okay. You mentioned it already that you have some economics, as you call it. So maybe you can tell us a little more about that, or some other funny stories from the life of a Pathfinder community manager.
That's your invention. Economics is my invention.
Yeah, it's already a spoiled joke. So once we noticed that no matter what we do, we write articles, we're searching for interesting information, for interesting tutorials sometimes, and a whole bunch of different things. The main thing is everyone loves is memes.
Yeah.
So we invented as a main principle of our job, one of main principles, we invented the economics. It means that we. I'll spoil the joke. I don't know how to cope with it. So we are taking. We have a researching department right now. We're calculating things. We're calculating the memes, posting them, and bringing our. I don't know how to.
Yeah, we have a meme department.
How to describe? Basically, we get a correct percent from every lol you make.
And it all turns to ruffles.
Yeah. Okay, makes sense.
Definitely.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about your tabletop games experience. Like, do you like playing tabletop games? So you obviously have played, because everyone in this office plays Kingmaker. Pathfinder. But yeah, do you have you played other tabletop games? So what do you like about them?
I've played a lot of different tabletop systems, and I will mention only the one I really love. No, except Pathfinder, obviously. It is World of Darkness, mainly Chronicles of Darkness, and Changeling the Lost Part. It's a really dark and mysterious story about stolen people who return from the Fire Realm. And with Office games, I played as a Paladin Stonelord Dwarf who died 6 times. 6 times.
Quite a journey.
Yeah, it was a long journey to his unfortunate demise when everyone left his rotting body in the middle of nowhere.
Only 6? The chat asks.
I know I could do better. I know. I aim at roughly 10 times the next character.
Yeah,
I
okay.
hope.
I
I will update you on this on my Twitter.
Space to growth.
A lot of
Growth.
space to grow.
Yeah.
But I think it's a record in the studio for this model, for this adventure path. 6 deaths of one character. I hope so.
We tried to find out.
I want
but
this achievement.
What we still don't know.
Okay, how about you?
My most gaming experience in pen and paper is how is it called? Savage Worlds. Yeah, we played this many years, and the rules for Savage Worlds, we used to play for lots of different settings, including a game for Owlcat. We took Owlcat, not online.
Yeah.
Wait, Owlcat online.
Oh,
We
okay.
took as we took this setting late on the Savage Worlds rules and played for many years. And the first ever pen and paper system I played was like a deep teenager. I was. It was the first ever Russian pen and paper system, Era Водолея.
Era of Aquarius.
Era of Aquarius.
D6 system.
It's like part of you may not understand this, but excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm really
Also,
sorry.
I think it was the second Russian.
But for Russian pen and paper community, it is a thing.
I think
I think.
it also
Oh,
was the
someone says they
second
played it
Russian pen and paper game, because I think first was the World of Grey Dragon. I think most people don't know about this, but
No.
it's really old. It's from 90s.
Hey, you're not alone. Someone in the chat has played it too. I can't
Yeah.
quite make out the
It's
nickname.
Golographia,
Yeah.
our Russian friend in the chat.
And one of our fan artists.
Yes, a great fan artist.
Yeah.
Hi.
Shout out. I also see some nice YouTube comments. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your feedback. And let's get to our new game, Raf. You are not developer, so I will not ask you anything like.
So we're not allowed to tell you anything.
But maybe from a community perspective, are you planning like any new strategies, approaches, interactions, any new formats? We are already trying this new streams and videos format, but maybe you have some ideas for any other kind of interactions.
It's really a bit hard question, because if we tell about them, they will know about them.
Yeah, but I don't
So
know.
yeah, we have them. We will tell you about them. Most likely, no.
It's a great thing we got some space and time for new
prepare, yeah.
strategies and new great ideas, new events. Because while the most of the time while working on the Kingmaker, it was a rush. We had to cope with so many things, and for now we had some time to think
And plan ahead, yeah.
ahead. So we're planning something. I hope you like it.
And we had a lot of different things to test on you. Yep.
Yeah. Some
And to see
memes.
which one will work best and which one will you like the most. Like using new hashtags for the RAF fan art, for different kind of posts, so new people will be able to find them easily.
By the way, the only feedback we get list is from you about our work, because we always read about everything about the game, but please also let us know what kind of posts do you like. What do you like to discuss?
I think we have their
You may-
feedback in likes on the memes, and that
Yes.
top 3 of our top 5 posts are
Yes.
memes.
That is how the Kickonomics was born.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you may write to the chat right now if you have something to say.
Yeah, they say post no spoilers, but I don't think that's a thing.
Spoilers.
We can
We can post
That-
more trolling.
Yeah, I can create another announcement of announcement of
Yeah,
announcement.
that was
I-
already mentioned in the chat to make an announcement of an announcement.
I can
Easily.
make another one. Yeah, no
Best
problem.
thing. Anytime.
Maybe you can share your ideas now in chat. What would you like to see in other social media? Maybe not about the game, the mechanics, the things that we can talk now about, but about something about world, about lore, about possible classes, characters.
Oh, someone in the chat doesn't like analysis of analysis.
Well,
Yeah, there
I
is.
can say only
Oh.
that I'm sorry that I've created this abomination of announcement. I was really desperate.
Here's one. I appreciate things like tips straight from the devs, like game tips, tutorials, or highlights of game mechanics. I know you eventually run out, but some of us are completely new to the real time with post games.
Regarding tips from developers, we had this idea some time ago, but we didn't push it further.
We'll try to.
Yeah, I
We
think.
will ask our awesome devs. I think a lot of them would be glad to help us. I hope so, at least.
By the way,
No,
if
they
you
will
didn't
be.
know, in our Discord, the dev team lives.
Yeah, we have devs
can
in our
find
teams
them.
in our Discord, so you can talk to them. You can try it.
Yeah, you can try it.
And maybe
They will
someone
answer.
will answer.
Yeah, maybe you can summon some of them. Yeah, if there is anything else you want to talk about, that's all like questions I had for you. So maybe you want to add anything else?
Do we have to add anything else in? Maybe chat has something to ask? Or they don't?
I didn't see any like questions.
Besides spoiler
Yeah.
questions,
Besides spoilers.
dev interviews, we hope to make them. Yeah.
They're asking who's your game master.
I don't know how to introduce Timofey, because Timofey Kitchenka, our lead technical artist, lead
One-
technical
the one-
martial artist,
Yeah. The one with an X.
Yeah.
and and Patron. You could see him in our Instagram stories once.
Oh, here's a question. How much coffee do you do? Do you drink?
I nearly don't drink coffee.
She wanted to ask rough coffee. Yeah.
I prefer tea, green tea, mostly, or white.
I drink about 5 or 6 rough coffee. Yeah, it's my addiction. I cannot live without coffee.
Okay. Yeah, someone in the chat supports you. You're not alone in that.
No one drinks tea in chat.
Okay.
That's a bit.
Oh, no, Chris Evelyn doesn't play in our tabletop days because
He's a bit too far away from
yes,
Moscow.
it would be
Oh,
a bit
It
difficult.
would be interesting to ask him to travel to us every week, every one
Maybe
day.
TV. How does it call? By internet.
Yeah.
We are something like Roll20. Yeah, it could be possible.
Well, someone said that, like, is he using Skype? Does anyone use Skype? Nowadays?
Yeah. We use Skype.
I think
sometimes.
everybody just forgot to suggest him to do it. Maybe he
Well, there is an
would
idea
be
for us.
against it.
Yeah. Guess there is an idea for us. Okay.
I can say that we always want your feedback, more of it, like even more than we have now.
Yeah, someone's drinking tea
We
right now.
want all of your feedback.
Okay.
I don't think we can share and comment. We can only joke further. We can go for some
We can do it all
for some
night.
time, yeah. And discuss tabletop, but maybe
And don't tell you anything exactly.
Yeah, we can
maybe
joke.
we can ask our awesome narrative designers to pull up on us. No,
Yeah.
I think it would be really great.
No, it's about time the narrative designers coming. So that was our community managers. It's very easy to reach out to them. Just go on Twitter, Discord, any of our social media, and they will be there. So you can ask them all the questions and give them all the feedback you have. Thank you for coming.
I'll hop back
Yeah,
to the editor's seat.
She'll go back to the editor's seat and help us with the stream and give you some
chat and give you keys.
Yeah, give you more of those keys, sweet keys.
Thank you.
Do you want keys?
Do you want keys? Yeah.
Maybe you don't.
Maybe we will get to keep them right now.
Can we
Okay,
can we keep the keys?
Can we keep the keys?
I don't think
Thank
so.
you guys for coming to the stream and for being awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, our community, for being
We'll
awesome.
be right back with the narrative designers, so don't go away. We'll be right back. And we are back again now with our narrative designers Nika and Arseny.
Hi, Russians in silly hats reporting.
Yeah. As you may have seen, we have given out some more keys for some of the games on Steam. There is also, as you may have noticed, a Steam sale ongoing, so if you want to buy any of those games or our game, Pathfinder Kingmaker, cover over to Steam and have the chance to have it with a huge sale.
Give us your money now.
Yeah, kind of like that. First question that I ask everyone, who is a narrative designer? What do they do?
A narrative designer is a person who writes all these words, who nobody reads, and just clicks through them, and then become really surprised when they end up in bed with Gunderson.
Okay. You seem to have a little bit of grunge.
It's a true story.
Yes, it's a true story.
Okay. How did you end up in the gaming industry? Like, what's your past experience on working for video games, and how did you end up here, where you are?
I literally saw Owlcat games opening, pass through tests, and here I am. It's my first job in game development. Well, I had some experience with making indie games with friends, but none of them were ever released. So Pathfinder Kingmaker is my first game.
Lisa mentioned the Age of Aquarius. It was the first. It's pretty obscure in the West. It was never released in English. I think there is a page about it on what's it called, on TV Tropes, but that's about it. But it was kind of huge in Russia. Age of Aquarius. It was a D6 game. It was an urban fantasy, kind of like Bureau 13 or Delta Green, where you go on investigations of some paranormal stuff. And that was my first game. And the sequel, I was in the team who wrote the sequel to it. I actually wrote a tabletop role-playing game, and it was horrible. Don't play it, but it was a priceless experience.
Okay, sounds like fun.
Oh, also fanfiction. Yeah, lots of fanfiction. A big secret is your fanfiction actually can work as your resume. It can.
It's the same with me.
Yeah.
I also sent a part of fanfiction as a part of my test for this job. And
If your job is to write words,
not just write words, we are working on an established franchise, and it's actually very similar to what fanfiction writers do. You have to learn a lot of lore, you have to be accurate with it, and some skills that you get while you are just a kid writing fanfics that are actually useful when you come to your job and do your work as a writer.
Yeah, lore. There's new Star Wars movie out. I won't be saying anything about the controversies about it, but I literally yesterday I read a funny thing. A person who was really annoyed with all the people who were furious about lore inconsistencies wrote, "It's almost like some people believe that somewhere in LucasArts there's a person whose job it is to check the scripts and write, okay, but Han Solo couldn't attack this because he's level 78 and he wouldn't do enough damage from the front, so this scene needs to be reshot so he could do his sneak attack damage from behind." And the funny thing is, I don't know how it is in movies, but here in video games, it's exactly like that. We have both lore problems and mechanics problems, situations where we actually need to, for example, it was a kind of a meme during the development of Kingmaker. It was kind of a meme because she's a level 14 fighter. That was an answer to a lot of problems we had to deal with Jamandi Aldore, who could actually go by herself into the Stolen Lands, just wall through it, take the Stag Lord's head. Why didn't she do that? Well, lore.
I want to add that I don't always see the thing as problems. You repeat the word problem so many times. I often see mechanics and lore as inspiration. It often helps, and it allows to create a really interesting stories. And also we work tightly with our colleagues. You saw Pish and Lenya earlier. Well, they are our great friends, and ideas from part of system design and mechanics that they share with us are often very great, and they help us to write a good story. You'll see it in Wrath of Righteous a lot. I'm just amazed at what we're doing, and a lot of this inspiration comes from the mythic paths.
Yeah, I agree. I was talking about problems, but frankly, it's a much... Look, it might be hard to work when you have these 300 books as your background that you need to work with. But it's a much bigger problem when you seem to have no Bible at all, like some movies we won't talk about here. Like, I won't spoil anything, but there was a situation in Wrath of the Righteous. A situation where a group of your allies gets attacked by ghouls. And there was some drama because they got beaten and they caught, what's it called, ghoul plague? Ghoul fever, I think, ghoul fever. They got that ghoul fever, and they got some real drama about that. And then Valadin, whose job it actually is to put sticks in the wheels like that, said, "Oh, but wait, this one person is a paladin, and paladins are immune to disease." And we were like, but we wrote such a great drama. Wait a sec, now we get to write drama about a single person who is still alive while her friends are slowly turning into rotten zombies. So yeah, that this low stuff, it can be it can be a source of problems, it can be a source of inspiration. You always can work from that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's now that we talked about our game, let's go back a little bit and talk about Kingmaker. What was it like working for it? Was it difficult to adapt a board game to a computer game? What problems did you encounter? What was the easiest? What came to be the easiest part of it?
It's such an old story now.
Old news.
Old news, yes. Well, comparing to Wrath of the Righteous, working on Kingmaker was easy. This adventure path is much more complicated with a more, I don't know, nuanced story, and much more things we have to consider while working on it. So Kingmaker was like a walk in the park, comparing to what we do now. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, when I actually learned which AP is going to be a second game, I said, well, that's impossible. You can't do that. Wrath of the Righteous, there's no way that can be done. And now we're more than a year into development, and I still have no idea if it can be done, but we're doing it, right? We're doing it somehow. And speaking of Kingmaker, well, if I don't remember who said that, I think it was from one of the interviews by BioWare developers, but it's a quote I remember very frequently. It goes like that. I think it was, they were talking about Mass Effect, and they said, well, it's really hard to write a dialogue between one potentially dead person and another potentially dead person about an event that either did or did not happen. And that's what we're doing all the time. And you see, the game is surprise unlinear, and it has a certain degree of linearity. But we always have to keep in mind all these open paths and balance between places where we have to upset our players by not allowing them to do something they might want to do in a tabletop game, because, well, we can't write infinite amount of content. We just can't. And every new decision can have sudden and unexplained, unforeseen consequences, including back in the time. Because we did it now, and wow, suddenly I think two chapters prior stops making sense. Wow, what are we going to do now? So we have to keep that balance between openness and closeness, between opportunity and forbidding, and like not railroading. I don't like the word railroading, and we're trying not to do that, but still we have to put boundaries. And that's the most challenging thing, because anything we do can have unexplained and unforeseen consequences.
Yeah, I see some people, I see some keys being given away. No, it's not a bot. It's actually our community manager that you saw early, and our sound designer, who are together sitting behind the camera and helping
Hey,
us.
Lisa.
Yeah, helping us with all the stream and stuff. So yeah, thank them for the keys and for this stream going quite well. Back to you guys. Let's talk about tabletop games. Um, you obviously have played them, but which other games, except Pathfinder, have you played? How much have you played? What's your experience with tabletop games? And whenever you like them more than PC or console games, or the same or less, and stuff like that.
Are we talking only about tabletop or board games in general?
I'd say board games in general, yeah.
Well, I actually played lots of board games. It's one of my greatest hobbies, and I have a company of friends. We gather almost each 2 weeks to play board games. As for tabletop, I mean role-playing systems like Pathfinder, I played World of Darkness. I played D&D, of course, and in my childhood, we played a lot of custom-made systems, because I have lots of friends who tried to design systems by themselves. They were mostly very simple, like just a set of rules in one textbook and rolling a dice, but it was fun. I can't say which I like more. Perhaps I like video games more, but I like tabletop games. I also like them a lot.
Okay.
Well, I started back at school. We too played at first without any kind of system. It was just a free-form game, which we did during our lessons in a in a paper, just passing it between each other, and the teacher was taking it from us. We started other ones. Then Age of Aquarius came out. We played that a lot. We made a sequel. It was bad. Here's the thing. Never have I ever played D&D. Any D&D, ever. And I only started playing Pathfinder when I joined Owlcat. Because, okay, not to offend anybody, but I just don't like all the math. And to me, Pathfinder is horrendously overruled. It has so many rules, and like it's not that rules are bad, but Pathfinder, it feels like more like a war game to me. Like you have all these rules, you have these classes, and these classes have these rules that let you kill enemies in various cool ways.
I feel the urge to disagree with you, because I actually like the math, and I like Pathfinder for its deepness. It's actually the game that all that math allows you to create an interesting character.
Oh yes, yes it does. But does it have math to, for example, well, take Shadowrun. When you create a character in Shadowrun, you, by design, by rules, by math, outline their social connections. Because, you know, systems matter. System is a thing you can ignore. You can play a deep social game at Pathfinder, but you will do it by ignoring some rules and making up others. While in Shadowrun, the system itself makes you make these choices. It makes you come up with your friends, your enemies, your contacts. And so my favorite system that I have DM'd a lot, well, Liz mentioned Savage Worlds. Well, she was one of my players. Yes. And Savage Worlds, it's a great system because it's so versatile. It allows you to create literally any. It can adapt to literally any world, and you don't need to do a lot of tinkering. It's not like GURPS where you have to do a lot of fine tuning and all these rules that should. No, you can just take it out, create your characters, and start playing. There are even more rules light systems like Fate, or I actually want to try Lasers and Feelings. Lasers and Feelings, it's a system that fits on one sheet, and it has just 2 stats. Every character has 2 stats, Lasers and Feelings. But there are 2 rules light, and that's kind of too close to a freeform game. So for me, Savage Worlds is the system that hits that sweet spot between freeform and at least some rules that lets you structure your game.
Okay. I see some really nice comments on YouTube. Thank you for all the kind words, and Merry Christmas to everyone. Yeah, it's Christmas Eve right now, so yeah, Merry Christmas and
Happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays. So I also see your comments on Twitch. I will not. I'm still not.
People want romance. Lisa, quickly bring fresh memes.
Yeah, bring fresh memes on our Twitch chat. Hey, this is a lot of good material for memes, actually. So yeah, okay, and now that we've been going around Wrath of the Righteous a lot, and a question for you is, first of all, well, I've already said a little bit about it, but what do you actually like about this adventure buff?
I really like its beginning. It's compared to Kingmaker, it has very dynamic start. Those who played the AP know it already. I don't want to spoil it for everybody else because it's really cool. It's really throws you in the stream of events right from the beginning, and it's very interesting. You discover a lot of things, and there is the mix. The beginning of Wrath of the Righteous is a mix of fighting, social interactions, unusual discoveries, and it's really cool.
So it's hard for me to tell about the things that I like without going into spoiler and leak territory, but I'll try. You know that we have this system of mythic powers, and it's more than just powers. You see, Wrath of the Righteous itself, it's by its origin, the original AP. It's a pretty straightforward story that assumes that you play as good people, good player, good characters. It assumes you have a good paladin in your party. Just have to do that. The mechanics assume you do that. And one of the reasons I said, well, we can't do that, it's impossible. One of the reasons is because, well, that's not what we're going to do, obviously. We're not going to do a strictly good party, strictly good playthrough thing. You can play as good, you can play as a roguish character, you can play as an outright evil character who maybe wants to stop the invasion because they want to conquer the world themselves, or maybe they're in, like the trickster, they're in it just for lulz. And that's what I love about the game we're making out of Wrath of the Righteous, because the original Wrath of the Righteous is a kind of, it's way less sandboxy originally. It was way less sandboxy, it's more on the rails, but then we come along and we take this story and we give you lots of ways to derail it, you see?
No, we just give you different rails.
Oh, no. We actually go and derail the, well, there is that original story, and ways you could derail it if you were playing it in tabletop. Like, imagine playing a story that assumes you're good in tabletop and say, well, I'm going to be an evil lich. Yeah, I can do that. And some master would say, no, you cannot, the story says you. Another kind of DM would say, rocks fall, everybody dies. Find yourself a new DM. But some would go along with that and say, okay, so you want to make this good campaign and evil campaign. Let's see how you will do that. Don't forget you have a lot of good allies here. Where you're going to look for your evil allies. Oh, I'll just take my good allies, kill them and raise them as undead. Okay, and this kind of derailing, this kind of remaking the story into what you would want to do with it, because that's the thing about role-playing games. It's a story that you take and make your own. Well, it's harder to make your own a game that we write, but we can at least simulate that experience of taken from one place and going into a completely different direction with it.
And you turn your shiny crusade train into a gothic dark train with a lich.
Oh no, it's not a train anymore, it's a zeppelin. It's a zeppelin on the rails, but...
Yeah, okay. I saw some good questions. Can you scroll up the chat a little bit, the Twitch chat? No, a little bit more. A little bit more. Wait. No, a little bit more. Oh, there. What other APs would you like to write for?
Can you repeat?
Yeah, what other adventure paths would you like to write for?
Actually, I want to write without adventure path to create our own adventure from the scratch, because we already did 2 adventure paths and it was interesting, but you always want some new experience, and creating something new is actually a new experience.
Yeah, of course.
So I can say which specific adventure path I would want to write, because I didn't actually play many of them. I'm currently playing Rise of the Rune Lords with a party I met on our Discord, and if anybody of them is watching here, shout out, you're majestic. Come to our Discord, there are some really cool roleplays there, you can join them, but it's not a thing I think we could make into well, there is a game I really want to make, and it would be a fantasy Shadowrun game. I want to make a game that is a bit like that new game Disco Elysium, where you have to go around and talk to people, talk a lot. Disco Elysium is actually majestic because it has a lot of rules. It actually has rules, it has stats, it has roles, but it has no combat. It has a lot of rules that modify the game, and none of them has anything to do with combat. I want to try that. And I want a game where you are in a great big megapolis. Maybe I'd like to adopt recently there was that Magic the Gathering based book. It wasn't a adventure path, it wasn't a module, it was just a setting book for the world of Ravnica. And Ravnica is a whole huge dimension-sized city with lots of intrigues and factions. So this play with factions where you can join these guys or that guys. You could intrigue. You could see. You could stay in the same place and see how the place itself evolves around you. How some go into power, some fade away, some die, some new contenders. That's the game I wish we could make. Well, maybe one day that will come true.
Yeah, I see that we have 20 people watching on YouTube. If you want, you can write in the chat. We do read you. So, did any of you play Numeria? It's a very simple system with a great focus on story and player freedom.
Numeria.
Yeah. No, wait, Numenera.
Numenera.
Yeah.
Numenera.
Yeah.
The media.
Sorry, my bad.
Have you played that?
No, I haven't.
I know it's a sequel to Planescape Torment, which is a great game and another example of a kind of game I wish I would make. But no, I haven't played it yet.
Okay. Another question about Rav that I had for you. We have announced that we'll have Witch and Oracle. And what makes these classes so cool, and why did everyone want them so much?
I don't know about everyone, but the cool thing about Oracle for me is that it has curses. Oracle is a class that comes with huge advantages and huge disadvantages that are advantages at the same time. There is a lot of cool curses you can have, and they really add something to this class, and they also make it very, story driven. It already contains a story at the moment of character creation.
Oracle is an interesting kind of character, and a kind of character I might want to play if I start another Pathfinder game, because you see, I usually play divine characters. I play one, not paladin. What's it called? Not paladin, but war priest. War priest of Pharasma, who is all about crushing the dead. The will of my lady is to keep the world clean of that mess. I also play in.
Jacob disapproves.
Well, well, wait till we meet. I play another character who is a gnome cleric of Calistria, and she's a completely different person. She's very bubbly and exalted, and oh, my lady, my sweet. She calls her attacks like it's anime spiritual weapon. But the thing is, Oracle is a kind of the world of Galarian does not allow specifically characters who are both atheist and clerical casters. What's that word?
Divine casters.
Divine casters who are atheist, but Oracle comes close to that. An oracle is, on one hand, a spiritual person who has this divine spellcasting, but also doesn't have to be devoted to a specific deity. And this is an interesting thing to explore.
Yeah, and Numenera, they said the tabletop game. Have you played the tabletop? I think not, but...
No.
And the witch? Anything you can say about the witch?
Witch is just a cool witch that can hurt her enemies a lot.
Well, the thing
I know few very cool witch builds who are pretty insane, and it will take too long to talk about. Build talks in Pathfinder are always long talks, and I want to get home today, but witches are also cool.
Witches get to cackle, which you can roleplay.
Yeah.
Bad day to you, and bad day to you.
Awesome. Okay. That's all the questions I had for you. You want to keep rolling? Yeah.
Well, another thing about witch is just like Oracle, she's not completely in control of her powers, of her destiny, because the witch has that patron that they don't know. They might not know who it is, and they might be walking around and doing a lot of magic, not even know whose agenda they are furthering, and that's a pretty cool thing to do. I actually am writing. Would it be a spoiler right now? No.
But I think
The
yes,
witch,
but
the witch.
you already spoiled it. So,
Have I?
yes.
Oh dear. Spoilers. You know, surprisingly, the favorite vegetable of many players is leek. They always like fresh leeks, and that's what sometimes happen when developers get mouthy on their developer
Social
chat.
media.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. But anyway, right now I'm for the Wrath of the Righteous. When we started writing, each of us, the narrative designers, got to offer one specific person we want to add to the party. It was like think of a brainchild of yours, and they may end up in the actual party. And mine, well, since it's a game about a crusade, I was always fascinated by that idea of the crusade of children, which is completely insane and went completely sideways in the actual history, but in a fantasy world it just might work. So I added a character who is essentially a child crusader, and she's a witch, which is an arcane caster, but as a type of person, she's kind of a godless saint, a kind of person who would preach compassion and love to demons, to devils, and even to gods. If she meets a god, she would scold that good god for not being good enough and not being merciful enough. And she's a witch. She's a witch who doesn't really know the source of her powers. She just calls them, that's the tricks. That's a magic trick I learned from my grandma. Oh, who's my grandma? I never seen her actually, but before me she was the grandma of my dad, and before that she was the grandma of his dad. And I won't spoil who exactly that is, but the witch is that kind of person who, unlike a wizard who studies stuff, or a cleric who prays and gets to know their deity, a witch is a more intuitional kind of person who has these powers and serves through the world, may be oblivious of the powers in herself and around her. It's much less brainy kind of person and more spiritual kind of person, even if they don't actually worship anyone. Which is, it's a cool concept to work with.
But she has intelligence, like as a prime stat.
No, she doesn't. She doesn't.
I know that your companion doesn't.
She
Witch
should.
in general. No?
Well, witch in general, yes. But even if you read we came up with a special archetype, so she doesn't have to rely on intelligence. Yeah, that way she
Who
can.
needs intelligence anyway?
Well, she's a charisma-based person, so she can deliver all these lectures on compassion and love to demons around her.
I see a question. Does Grandma's cabin sit on a giant chicken leg? Probably some Russian asking this.
Baba Yaga.
Yeah.
Play the actual game and you'll see.
I saw a question a little bit up in the chat. There was a question like, will it be easier for new players to start playing? We have answered this question in our first interview, but the question was a little bit different. Like, will it be easier for players to know like which kind of character to create? I don't know if you can answer that question. Maybe you can roll the chat a little bit so I can read the whole thing.
Well, we know that it's a problem that...
Wait, there it is. In some reviews were complaints how if you are new to the RPG games and Pathfinder rules, you have really hard time trying to first create a character, then start playing. Will there be any kind of easy start quest on how to create your PC guide?
It's actually a more question for our game designers. We can only answer, well, as far as I heard, yes, we are planning some tips and some help on character creation, but I don't know any details. It's
Well, here's the thing. That's what I said about about why Pathfinder is a hard game for me to play personally.
stop doing it.
That's what it is. Because it has all this.
Hates you.
It does
Even the
have
cat hates
all the stats and all the math that you have to balance, and we know that it was a huge problem for many first-time players. But it's a kind of thing that we need to balance because we just can't dumb it down because it's a huge path. You see, we're making what is essentially a middle shelf game, a niche game, a game that is not. We're not making Call of Duty that's for everyone. We're not making a tiny indie game that's for nobody except 10 super fans. No, we're making a game for a specific niche, and that niche that this group of fans that we rely heavily on, they want the original Pathfinder rules, and we need to stick to them as close as possible. But on the other hand, there are all the people who want some other kind of experience, who maybe came in expecting something more, less Baldur's Gate and more Fallout 1 and 2. And for people who want less math and more story, well, there are automatic scaling, there are automatic builds, the pre-built characters, and of course there is also always the best mode, which is the story mode, where you can just ignore the fights and go with the story. Now you can ignore the fights and click through all the story without reading that. I'm not sure what exactly you would get by doing that, but you can. The game is all about possibilities.
Yeah. If you can scroll the chat a little bit down, maybe. Okay. Oh wow, that's the chat is quite active today. We cannot tell you about love interests yet. I'm sorry, I've seen this question all over, and I think Omniban is making the question longer every time to just take up all the chat.
What?
Love
Romances.
I think we cannot say anything about them right now.
Well,
There will be romances.
yeah,
That's all
there
I can
will be
say.
romances, and actually we keep talking about stuff, we keep adding and cutting stuff, so even if we leak something, it might change in the following months, so don't be too spoilery about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, in my opinion, we should just drop all the combat and make a date simulator.
That's not only your opinion. I think many people think that, but yeah.
That's my opinion, and
Love is better after the battle.
oh, but you can do the battle in text. You could say, well, after that battle on a camp, you sit down and get to the good part.
Yeah. Okay. Is it safe to assume the scale of the game is similar to Kingmaker?
Yes.
It's different. It's Kingmaker was much more sandboxy, and we actually made Wrath of Righteous more sandboxy than it was in the Adventure Path, but it's still it's not the same. It's hard to compare the scale because they're very different. Also, we added a whole I don't know.
The whole system.
A whole system of mythic paths that also add a lot of story content. You would see that when you start to becoming a lich or becoming an angel.
A lot of content that mutually exclusive.
Yes.
It's not like a sandbox where you can check all the boxes. No, you need to choose either you derail the rail in this direction or that completely different direction. There's going to be a lot of replayability. Yeah. Sorry about that.
But also, well, we are not removing sandbox part. There will be like a whole chapter which is very big and very sandboxy. I think we can reveal that not to scare off our players who are afraid of railroading. So there will be a bit of this and a bit of that.
Well, if you read the original or played the original Adventure Path, I'm again not spoiling anything, but it has some details that makes a consistent sandbox really hard to make, like that book where you just go into another place for a long time.
Okay. Considering
You go on vacation from crusading.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. A nice vacation to a really nice place.
The best. Like 5 stars resort.
Yeah. 5 upside down stars.
Yeah, considering Wrath goes into epic levels, how does that factor?
Oh, it doesn't go into epic levels. We completely retooled the mythic system. That's how it works basically. Basically, very basically, and no fresh leaks here. But basically, it goes like this: you advance by your class. You choose your classes and advances, as you did in Kingmaker and in the tabletop game. But in addition to that, you have like your personal journey of a mythic, which first of all, any mythic can be any class. So yes, you can be a lich fighter or a trickster rogue, a trickster wizard. They're not exclusive, and it first of all it goes on the top of your on the top of your powers. Some of your powers just become mythic. Some mythic powers give you new powers, which are completely original. But it also heavily affects the story, because if you decided to become a lich, it's a really different story from if you want to become a shining angel.
Yeah, there was actually a question, will the class they choose affect the story? I don't know if there's anything you can say about
No.
Right now we can't answer
Okay.
this because it's not
Most likely no, because just here's the thing. That's what it was in Kingmaker, and that's what it will most likely be still in Wrath. We have some reactivity to your race, because the race of your character is something you choose at the creation of the character, and it stays with you. But we can't really add a lot of reactivity to your classes, because you can take any class at any time.
Can you scroll the chat down?
It would make it really hard, and we feel like it would actually break immersion rather than build it.
Well, it's not the only reason. It's very expensive to give feedback and to change the story, because Kingmaker has lots of classes and lots of archetypes. Like, you can't refer to alchemist bombs in a dialogue, because he could be an
Yes.
archetype that has no bombs, and you have to do really insane amount of work to implement a class feedback to classes correctly. And right now, I don't think we don't have resources for this. It's like writing a whole chapter in a scale. Very complicated
Yes.
and very expensive,
That's the
unfortunately.
thing that we always have to keep in mind, that everything, literally everything we do is a trade-off, and we have a limited amount of manpower, yes, and anything we write is something we didn't write. So forgive us if
We are
something
very
you
sad
wanted.
about that ourselves. We actually we were sad
Sometimes
about it
we
in
work
Kingmaker and
weekends
to-
just because we want that cool thing to be in.
Yeah, there's a question. I don't know if it's serious, but whenever there will be more text in Wrath than it was in Pathfinder.
Like the word count,
Yeah,
just
like-
number of.
I suppose. I'm not sure what they meant with the question. Like, would there be more text? I guess, yeah.
No, there won't be more
I
text.
guess it would be the same amount of text,
Yeah.
Yes.
around 60 to 80 to
I think it would
100.
be a little bit less in one playthrough, because
Yes.
we plan slightly, not really, but slightly shorter single playthrough, but more replayability due to mythic paths.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's like a companion quest for yourself, and a kingdom quest for yourself too.
There is another question I'm not sure we can answer, but will the deity you worship affect the story? Is that anything we can talk about?
I hope we can put this feature in, but it all depends on how much time we have. I mean, look, the reactivity to your choices, we want to make as much of it as possible, and in a perfect world, there would be tons and tons of reactivity. Problem is, that's a feature that takes time to make, and the time we're making it, we're not, for example, writing a romance. Would you sacrifice a romance for?
I think that some people would.
Well,
But,
some people would, some people wouldn't. It's always a trade-off,
actually-
and I can only say that we're trying to fit as much as possible in.
Actually, right now we can't answer whether there will be or won't be a reactivity to your deity choice, because it will be, well, there's always a feature cut or
Yes.
feature creep, and We are now in the early stages of the project. Well, not really early, in the middle of it, but still we can't answer all the questions. Perhaps there will be changes, something would be added and something will be thrown out. We want to make reactivity to deity choice, but we can't promise that.
Yeah.
Creep. Be afraid of feature creep. It's like a CR40 monster. It kills whole projects.
Why is every question about romance? Like every single. Can I romance that? Can I romance this flower? Can I romance this screen? Can I? Okay.
Well, you can try.
Yeah.
It's another cool thing about CRPGs. You get to romance character without seeing your fat bearded GM actually role playing that wife of yours.
Beware of romancing devs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen a lot about good, evil. What about neutral? Does that sort of playthrough make sense?
What?
Neutral.
Neutral.
Yeah, neutral.
Yes, and lawful, chaotic, neutral, good and evil. We try to bring all possible, I don't want to say alignments, player styles in that game.
Well, they do gravitate to certain alignments, and being a lich is pretty evil, and being a trickster is pretty chaotic.
And being an angel is...
It's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. Recommend to everyone. So yeah, we're trying some different things. Now, there's a question if you can be what a true neutral character even means. What does it mean to be a truly neutral? We gave it a shot and we tried to find an answer that would make sense. But, well, you'll see.
Yeah, Geralt of Rivia tried a lot. he
failed
does, yeah,
every time.
There's a question on YouTube. Which game is more linear, Wrath or Kingmaker?
Wrath was more linear as adventure path, but we changed it. We already answered it, I think.
Yeah.
And now it's less linear than it was, but I think it's slightly more linear than Kingmaker.
Well, yes, Wrath is, you can say, less sandboxy, but more branching. You could say that. Like you in Kingmaker, you could get different kingdom events and different outcomes for your characters, your companions, and you could go at different. You could go for different endings, but here you can go into completely different directions based on your mythic path, which you choose pretty early and then get locked into a set of chances, looking out of some others like you didn't have in Kingmaker. So both have choice, both have a lot of content, but it's organized really differently. Because this kind of system lets us do a really different thing.
I think I saw a question like, will there be a base or something? I don't know if that's a thing again we can talk about.
A base?
Yeah.
Like your capital?
Yeah.
Can we answer it?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw like, will you be able to customize your base? And I'm like, did we say we will have a base?
Well, it's not that big of a spoiler to say that at some point you will liberate a big city and become the commander of it, like it was in the AP. But how much of that will be a customizable base, we can talk about it right now.
We actually... people tell us that we can't talk about this.
Yeah.
They look at us very strangely.
Well, it was in the AP.
Perhaps soon there will be a news that 2 narrative designers were murdered.
Yeah. They have never been seen again.
The last known photo.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's it for now. We have exceeded the time we had for this interview. It was really cool. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you, everybody. You're fantastic. We love you.
Yeah. Again, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. We have a Steam sale ongoing, and I hope you liked enjoyed the keys that we gave away. We will have another stream on Thursday. It will be in a day, and stay tuned. I know social media, and we'll see each other again.
See ya. Give Lisa your keks.